Good morning. Charlie's back in the studio here to answer your legal questions. If you have one, get on the line, give us a call. The number is easy, 436-1212. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
It's great to be here.
We have got a call on the line. We're going to go ahead and get right to that one.
Okay.
Hi there. Good morning. You're on the line with Charlie. What's your question?
Yes, I'd like to know how we could go about getting our grandparent rights to see some grandchildren we haven't got to see for over 2 years.
Well, actually, there exists a way to do that. There's a statute that allows you to get grandparents' rights. If you haven't seen your grandchildren from 2 years, I assume it's a rather contentious matter, so you're probably going to need to go to an attorney. But it's kind of up to the judge and all the circumstances that go on there. Anytime you get into children's rights as far as seeing a grandparent, or when parents are arguing about how much visitation they get, the judge has a lot to do with that. So you're probably going to need to go to an attorney, tell that attorney all the facts surrounding that, and the attorney will give you advice. But there is a mechanism in the statutes, which are the Kansas laws, which would allow you to do that.
You know, Charlie, I know that we get a lot of custody questions here on the show, and I'm sure you see those too at your office. There's a lot of different laws that are in effect as far as grandparents. Are there anything for any other extended family members, like aunts or uncles, stepbrothers, sisters?
I don't think there's any really mechanism for that, but it's kind of what we call, without getting into a big legal thing there, we have courts of law, which are controlled by the law, and we have courts of equity, which are controlled by what's fair.
Okay.
Domestic court, the children are kind of a mixture of those two. So the judge can come in and do kind of what he thinks is fair under the circumstances of the law. So it's kind of a hybrid there, but it's an unusual court because the judge has a lot to say on what the judge thinks should happen to the child, because the child's best interests are always first.
Well,
So,
let's be realistic. Those are typically, like you were just talking to this woman on the phone, pretty contentious. I mean, you've got a lot of heated arguments between family members sometimes.
and some of them are valid because sometimes we have one school district and another school district,
Right.
and they're arguing which one, or one has one religion, one has another religion, they're arguing about that. So there's some real valid things, but people also take their children at times and make them pawns because they're upset because they married someone and now they're not together, and they're hurt emotionally, and they use the children as a pawn. So that's a real problem in those cases. The emotional hurt of trying to get even with the other party at times is something that's very difficult for everyone involved. And some people get very unreasonable. They just fight because they want to get even, because they feel like they've been emotionally hurt.
So what happens then if you don't adhere to what the judge has ordered?
Well, the judge is the boss, as I would tell everybody. So if the judge tells you to do something and you don't do it, you're subject to contempt. Now, contempt would have you in violation of a court order. If you're in contempt, the judge can decide to punish you. Now, you have to be in pretty severe contempt to end up in custody, but you can. You can end up in custody. He can also fine you. He can also have other things happen, and it can affect even the divorce or what happens in the division of property if someone doesn't do what they're supposed to do. Okay,
something to keep in mind. I know a lot of people going through these similar situations. We get these calls just about every week.
Yes, and it's a tough situation because if you think about it, people have been married, they think they're in love with each other, they want to last forever, and then somebody does something or they grow apart and they're angry at the other side, and children are in the middle of that. People have to be real mature and not emotional and act in the best interest of their children.
Okay, and if you do have any questions, make sure you do seek an attorney. As always, we appreciate Charlie coming in and giving us his time, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks.
We'll be back with more Eyewitness News. Stick with us here on KSCW.